Breaking news. Tensions soar in the West Philippine Sea. Ships collide, nations clash. The battle for the West Philippine Sea heats up. This might sound like a movie headline, but honestly, it's real. Day after day, headlines scream about standoffs between Chinese and Philippine ships. Fishermen tell stories of being chased away from waters their families have fished for generations. So, why is the West Philippine Sea suddenly at the center of world attention? Why is China, one of the world's biggest countries, claiming waters so close to the Philippines? This is not just about rocks in the sea, it's about resources, power, history, and well, the future of millions. The West Philippine Sea dispute is not only a Filipino concern. It affects global peace, trade, and the health of oceans everywhere. Filipinos and the world need answers. They need a breakdown that cuts through the noise. Simple, clear, and straight to the point. In this essay, we'll explain why the West Philippine Sea matters, why China is making its claim, and what it means for the Philippines and the world. No nonsense, just facts. The ocean is much more than water. It covers about 70% of the planet. It gives us food, jobs, and even the air we breathe. The West Philippine Sea, a vital part of the South China Sea, is at the heart of this global system. Oceans are sometimes called the global commons. This means they belong to everyone, not just one country. Just like a public park in a city, the sea is supposed to be shared. No single country owns the whole ocean. But, sometimes countries draw lines and say, "This part is mine." That's when things get tricky. The West Philippine Sea is one of those places. It is rich, busy, and close to many countries. That makes it a hotspot for disputes. When we talk about the West Philippine Sea, we're also talking about the right to fish, to drill for oil, and to sail ships. It's about who gets to use, protect, and profit from the sea, a question with no simple answer. So, who gets to decide? For decades, countries have tried to avoid chaos at sea by making rules. The main set of rules is called the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. Almost every country, including China and the Philippines, has agreed to follow it. UNCLOS says that coastal countries can claim an exclusive economic zone, or EEZ. This means they control all the natural resources like fish, oil, and gas, up to 200 nautical miles from their shore. It's kind of like drawing a circle around each country on the map. But sometimes these circles overlap. That's exactly what happens in the West Philippine Sea. The Philippines, China, Vietnam, Malaysia, and others all claim parts of the same space. This overlap leads to arguments, tension, and sometimes even dangerous confrontations. When countries disagree, UNCLOS says they should talk things over or go to international courts for help. But it's not always that simple, especially when feelings of pride, history, and power get mixed in. Why does everyone want the West Philippine Sea? The short answer: it's rich beyond belief. The sea is bursting with fish and other marine life. It is home to coral reefs, turtles, whales, and rare creatures. For centuries, local fishermen have depended on these waters. But that's just the beginning. Under the sea floor, there are huge reserves of oil and natural gas. Some experts say the South China Sea could hold up to 11 billion barrels of oil and 190 trillion cubic feet of gas. That's enough to power entire countries for years. Energy is not just about money, it's about security. Countries need oil and gas to keep their factories running, cars moving, and homes lit up. Controlling these resources is a huge advantage, especially for a country as big and energy-hungry as China. Lastly, the sea is a superhighway for trade. Over $3 trillion worth of goods passes through these waters every year. Whoever controls the West Philippine Sea can influence global trade, making it a strategic prize. So, China's claim is based on something called the 9-dash line. This line, well, it snakes around almost the entire South China Sea, covering nearly 90% of it. The line first appeared on Chinese maps way back in 1947, before the People's Republic of China was even founded. But here's the thing. The 9-dash line is not a scientific boundary. It doesn't follow UNCLOS rules at all. Instead, China says it shows traditional Chinese fishing grounds and ancient maps. For China, this line is about more than just resources. It's about history and identity. The problem is, this line overlaps with the EEZs of many other countries, especially the Philippines. Imagine someone drawing a huge circle on your backyard and saying, "This is mine, because my grandparents used to visit here." That's basically how many Filipinos feel. Other countries, like Vietnam and Malaysia, also make claims. But China's 9-dash line is by far the biggest and most controversial. It really is at the heart of the dispute. In 2013, the Philippines decided to take a stand. It brought a case against China to an international court in The Hague, Netherlands. The court was set up under UNCLOS, which is often called the Constitution of the Sea. The Philippines wanted the court to decide who really owned what in the West Philippine Sea. But, the case wasn't about who owned islands, but about something called maritime entitlements. The Philippines argued that China's 9-dash line had no legal basis at all. It also said China was violating Filipino rights by blocking fishermen and building artificial islands. In July 2016, the court gave its decision. It was honestly a huge moment for the Philippines and for international law. The ruling said China's 9-dash line had no legal basis. It agreed that the Philippines had rights to its exclusive economic zone, including rich fishing grounds like Scarborough Shoal. The tribunal also said China's artificial islands damaged the environment and broke international rules. For many Filipinos, it was a victory, but the story didn't end there. China quickly rejected the court's ruling. It said the tribunal had no right to make decisions about its territory. Chinese leaders called the ruling a piece of waste paper. China continued its activities in the West Philippine Sea, building more islands and sending more ships. This response shocked many, honestly. The whole idea of international law is that countries follow the rules, even when it's hard. But China is powerful. It has the world's biggest population, a huge economy, and a growing military. The Philippines, on the other hand, is much smaller. Its Navy and Coast Guard are brave, but they face a giant. Filipino fishermen still face harassment. Tensions continue, and sometimes there are dangerous standoffs at sea. Other countries have supported the Philippines' legal victory, but so far, there has been no simple solution. The dispute goes on, with both sides refusing to back down. So, why is China so determined? Well, part of the answer is resources. China needs oil, gas, and fish to feed and power its people. The West Philippine Sea is basically a treasure chest of energy and food, but there's more to it. The sea is a highway for ships carrying goods to and from China. Whoever controls the sea can protect their trade and project power. That's why China has built artificial islands, complete with airstrips and military bases. There's a deeper reason too. For many Chinese, claims in the South China Sea are about national pride. They point to old maps and stories of Chinese sailors. They talk about the century of humiliation when foreign powers bullied China and took its land. For them, reclaiming the sea is a way to restore dignity. Some Chinese leaders also see the sea as part of their national legacy. Giving up claims would be seen as weakness. This makes compromise really difficult, even as the world watches closely. For Filipinos, the West Philippine Sea is not just a headline, it is home, livelihood, and legacy. The dispute tests the country's unity, strength, and resolve. It also calls for wisdom and care. The Philippines has won a clear legal victory, but, laws do not enforce themselves. Filipinos must stay informed, united, and vigilant. The world is watching how the country stands up for its rights and protects the sea for future generations. This is not just a fight over rocks and water. It is about sovereignty, resources, and the future. Filipinos must balance strength with diplomacy, protecting their interests without risking war. In the end, the West Philippine Sea reminds us that the ocean connects us all. The challenge is to defend what is rightfully ours, through courage, unity, and smart negotiation. So the global commons remains a source of life, not conflict for all.